Hello, hello. It's Jennifer Main again. Thank you very much for those of you who are already tuning in live. Hopefully we'll have more and more people joining us over the course of the next kind of 45 minutes or so. So yesterday we started talking about boundaries and what it is to create boundaries in your life that create some freedom, that create a sense of harmony, that simplify your life, that make things easier for you, and what it is to make that part of your reality. So just really briefly, I'll recap a little bit on what we talked about yesterday was saying no. So yesterday was us really delving into what it is to say no, being comfortable with saying no, and how saying no is actually compassionate towards yourself and towards other people. That it's an essential part of setting really healthy boundaries in your life, and that obviously a lot of people have a lot of guilt and a lot of things that come up around that. A lot of fear and shame and blame can often come up when looking at saying no or considering saying no. So it's often a complex issue, but definitely something that can be navigated, that can be figured out, and that can be applied in a really healthy way. So today what we're going to do is start to delve more into what it is to, once you've said no, you figured out what you don't want in your life, and you've started to kind of declutter and release those things in your life. It creates a spaciousness. It creates a spaciousness within your mind, your body, and your soul. And once you have that spaciousness, then you're unburdened enough, essentially, to start to figure out what you do want, what your desires really are, what you would choose to experience as opposed to what you have been experiencing over the years. So for a lot of people, saying no is that first step and kind of starting to break a lot of those patterns and starting to release those things that you've been going through or that you have been living throughout your life. So hopefully for those of you who joined in yesterday or were able to watch the replay, hopefully you will have gotten some insight, some clarity on, and actually started to think about and plan through what you wanted to start to release in your life, what you were actually starting to let go of. Cool. So we've got a few people joining us. Hello. Thank you very much. If you guys want to just say a quick hello and say where you're joining us from, because there's a few different places here, feel free to say hello. And if there's anything that you're wanting to get out of today's little session on finding the desires and choosing your yes. Please feel free to interact and join in at any point. If you've got any questions, if there's anything you want to share or say, that's absolutely fine. I'll make this as interactive as possible. It's more fun for everybody that way. So, hey, Matthew. And Allison, thanks very much for joining. So we're going to, again, yesterday we looked at the no's. So today we're really going to delve into the yes. So again, if you've got any questions at any point, then please feel free to share, feel free to join in, because ultimately, if you have a question about something or have a story or an issue, it will resonate with somebody else as well. So it will provoke some questions and some insight for them too. So I'm happy to have you guys kind of joining for this. So after learning about saying no's yesterday, hopefully you guys have had an opportunity to figure out some of the things you don't want in your life anymore. So again, these would have been things like, feeling like you're not receiving the love that you want in your life, the peace or things like that, feeling dishonored, feeling disrespected, unheard, unlistened to, and started to identify some ways that you can release and resolve that. So hopefully you've had an opportunity to kind of think through that. And if you haven't, that's okay. You can do that at another point too. Because actually what we're doing today might actually help you to clarify some of your no's as well. So there may be a little bit of overlap with the things that we're talking about. So today we're really going to be looking at the yeses in life and how choosing your yes is essentially choosing yourself. And making yourself a priority a priority within your life. So for me, this is always a really interesting thing to delve into with clients or students or friends or family. And especially if you know anything about manifesting and what it is to create your own life, one of the biggest issues with people is they have a hard time deciding what they do want and what is a priority for them. So we'll talk about a couple things that kind of are barriers to that, and hopefully help you to release and resolve some of those issues so that you're able to get clearer on what you do want to have in your life. And then towards the end of the day, we'll really start talking about making it a priority for you and making yourself a priority without feeling like you have to justify yourself in order to do that. So just giving yourself some permission to enjoy the life that you've got while you're here. So, obviously choosing your yeses and choosing what you do want. I think anytime you've got real clarity on what you want to have, the easier it's going to be to manifest it. The easier it's going to be to kind of call that into your experience. And a lot of that, I know yesterday we talked a little bit about trial and error. We learn a lot through trial and error. So often we learn about things that don't work first. We try it out, figure out what doesn't work, and then what does. And then with the things that do work, we figure out what actually align with us, what we enjoy, what is right for us, and what feels good for us. And ultimately, I think one of the best ways to gauge what a yes is for you is how it feels. I think the feeling is some of the most accurate ways to really start to choose what you desire and what you want. Because it's very easy for us to get caught up in our heads, within our logic, and thinking of what should work or what ought to work or what ought to be good. But actually, if you can go into how it feels, that will give you a better gauge of what actually aligns with you. Because just because something should work or should be good or should be right doesn't mean that it necessarily is. And I know that with a lot of people, so much of what goes on right now is that people are so disconnected from their bodies, they're so disconnected from their feelings, they kind of feel like they've lost that connection with who they are and how they feel and what's going on with them. That's often why it's difficult to figure out or make a decision. So some of the stuff we'll do today hopefully will help you just to be more present and centered within your body so that you're really tapping into the feeling of what you do want and what does feel good. What feels amazing, what feels in alignment, so that you can start to choose that as opposed to, again, the obligations and the things that maybe don't align, that aren't as healthy or clear for you. And I think for some of these things, it can be a bit more subtle. So it is about taking that time to check in with yourself and understand yourself and giving yourself permission to try new things and to move outside of your comfort zone. I love talking about comfort zone. I always find this fascinating. So, on a human level within the subconscious, your subconscious will always choose what it knows. And what it knows is what's been experienced. And so if you're thinking about trying something new that you've never done before, your subconscious automatically flags up fear because it doesn't know what's going to happen. It doesn't know the outcome. But the problem is if you listen to your subconscious and listen to your fears all the time, you never do anything new. You never grow and you never expand. So if you're listening to the fears, if you're feeling into the fears that have been there, then you're never going to move forward in your life and you're never going to do anything that can really help you align with that soul purpose that makes your heart sing, all those things that are more than just the normal kind of daily drudgery of life that some people can get caught up in. So some of the stuff we're going to talk about today is moving beyond that comfort zone. Because your comfort zone will just keep you comfortable and it'll keep you small and it'll keep you doing the same thing every day. And that's, if that's what you want, that's fine. But most people I know want a bit more excitement in their life. They want something new. They want something that's going to push them a little bit so that they can grow and that they can learn. Most people I know on some level know that there's something big that they're meant to do in their lives, that there's something that they're wanting to accomplish or do or have or bring into their experience. And so when you start to tap into that and allow yourself to do that, then that's moving beyond your comfort zone and doing something new. And that's when your heart really starts to sing. That's when you really start to appreciate your life and what's going on. So it's using that yes. So we'll delve into a bit more of that on Wednesday as well, with kind of looking at soul purpose and aligning with that kind of bigger picture of what you're here to do, and how setting boundaries is going to help you to align with that. So when you guys think about your desires and what you do want in your life and what feels good, do you feel like you have some clarity within that? Does that feel like it's something easy for you to tap into? Does it feel like it's something that you're really clear on? Or is it something that you still feel like you're figuring out, that you're still fine-tuning? I mean, I will say life is always a journey, so you're never going to accomplish everything all at once, so it's always going to be an exploration and a journey for you. But when you think about feeling what you want to feel, if anybody wants to comment or share anything about that, does that feel easy for you? Do you feel like you struggle to understand what feels good? Do you struggle to tune into how you feel when you're making a decision? Are there any specific things that you feel get in your way when it comes to being able to do that? Go ahead, and I'll keep talking. You guys can ask questions or share with that below. We'll get into that too. But basically, what I find is that a lot of times being able to identify your no's can help you to identify your yeses and what you do want. So, I mean, sometimes it's just an opposite thing. So some people will say, well, I don't want disrespect in my life. What I do want is respect. So figuring out your no's may help you to figure out some of your yeses as well. They may help you to get clear on that. But when you think about what you do want to experience, the feelings that you do want to have, it's really tuning into what is right for you, and that's going to be very, very different from everyone. So Matt said that's what he struggles with, is that he wants everything to be completely constant, even if it's not the best experience. Yeah, so that's really interesting. And I think, again, that's that comfort zone stuff, is that we feel better on some level when we know it's going to happen. It's this kind of illusion of safety that we feel like that we can manage it better. But most people I know, especially free souls, just get so bored with that. That even if on some level you want it to stay the same, it's not going to happen anyway. Your soul's not going to let that happen anyway. It will always stir up something in your life so that you'll have something that's different. But it's also, I think, around clearing your fears around things being different, clearing your fears around having new experiences, and knowing that you can manifest things that are the best for you, that are your choice. And that, for me, goes back to having real power and influence in your life, and understanding. Matt's saying he has been bored, yeah. So understanding that you have the power and the ability to choose your experience. And that's what these yeses are all about, is what it is that you want to choose, so that you can enjoy the experience instead of it feeling like something that's being forced upon you, or that it's out of your control, that you have no influence over it. So I know when I work with clients, and I know when I look at myself, the things that come up over and over again for people are things like, there are major yeses in life. And I would kind of look at them as like the themes in your life are things like respect and honor, things like freedom. Freedom's a big thing for people. People want to know that they've got choice, that they've got free will. And also big things like love and connection, which can be very scary for a lot of people. So we're going to do some work to clarify some of these things, because some people are saying on one level that they want love, and on another level saying that they don't. And again, big things like communication, expression, creation, creativity, all of those things go together. And those are major things for people. Those are some of the main things that people are wanting in their experiences. And obviously you can, fine-tune that down and get more specific about how you create that. But those tend to be some of the main things that people are saying over and over and over again. If you guys have anything else you want to share that you want to add to that list, then please do, because it will definitely help. So Emma's saying she's still fine-tuning and moments of confusion, but also moments of deep alignment, which are really encouraging along the journey. And that's perfect. And I think that the more you do that, the more you fine-tune, the more you question, the more you get clear on, the easier it becomes to just be in that alignment. Because when you really figure out what you do want, and that's what you're asking for, you're really aware of it, you really understand it, then you just get to that point where you're in that alignment all the time, or most of the time. We're human beings, life happens. But as much as is humanly possible to be in that alignment. And once you get used to that and being in that, then that becomes your reality. That becomes your awareness and your consciousness. And that's what you continue to create from and live within. And actually, what I found, and I've learned this recently, because the last year, I've just been saying it over and over and over again. I'm like, can I just get some clarity? I just want some clarity. I want some understanding about what's happening. I just want to have some kind of focus to move forward with. And what I found out is that periods of confusion are often periods where you're going through your biggest transition and your biggest learning curves. So what's happening is that, again, that confusion, that inner conflict is often because we've got old belief systems or old experiences that we're still holding on to on one level, but on another level, we're learning new things. And so there's this conflict between what's the truth or what's right, because the old way may have worked for a while. It may have served you and been exactly right for what you needed at the time. But then the new things that you're learning, you may find actually align you that bit better. So a lot of times that confusion is that choice point between, okay, do I stick with the old stuff that I know, or is it okay for me to move into this new stuff and let go of the old stuff, or take the bits of the old stuff that still align, that are still true, that are still right, and fit them in. Because it's all, for me, it's all an evolution. It's all a journey. It's all about figuring out how your past experiences, that past knowledge fits in with what you're doing now and what you'll be doing in the future. And I think there's always going to be a bit of a fine-tuning on that. But again, I think if you can get clear on how you want to feel and what you want to experience, then that's gonna clarify things more than anything. And I know I love speaking to people who have like massive goals and dreams. I love these people. They're so exciting. They're so cool. But for the people that really are in their head with those decisions, they're in their head with, this is my goal, this is how I'm going to work towards it, this is what I'm going to do. That's awesome if that's really in alignment and if it's really true. But what I find over and over again is people go, I have this goal, and they think it sounds good, and they think it's the right thing for them to do, they think it's the right next step. But then they start to actually get into the process, and they hate the whole process. They hate every step along the way. It doesn't align. It doesn't feel good. And so they finally reach their goal, but it's a little bit kind of like, well, was it really worth it? Because they didn't find that alignment. They weren't really tuning in to that authentic self and that true self when they were making those choices. So again, if you can go into the feelings, if there's some fear there around doing something new, then that's fine. And actually, I'll say this too. Fear is not necessarily the sign that something is not right for you. A lot of people use fear to justify, oh, it's not the right thing for me. That doesn't feel good. But because anytime you are stepping outside of your comfort zone and you're stepping outside of what's known, you're going to have fear. Your subconscious is going to trigger fear for you because it doesn't understand what's happening or doesn't know what's going to happen next. So it's actually about changing your relationship with fear when you're making choices, because if you're just using fear to help you gauge, then you'll never do anything new. And if that is your gauge or your sign, it's not the right one to have. If you can recognize that, oh, there's some fear coming up, that means I'm doing something new, then that's awesome. So you can use that little bit of fear as a signal of, oh, I'm growing, I'm doing something different, I'm doing something new, and be encouraged by that instead of feeling like it's scary for you to do something new or scary for you to choose something new. So does that make sense? Does that clear up anything for anybody? Hopefully that does. Yeah, cool. Thanks very much, guys, for the questions and the comments. So what I want to do actually, oh, awesome. Emma says she loves that. Perfect. So what I want to do, if it's okay with you guys, is I just want to kind of clear any of these barriers or blocks to feeling good and to feeling the stuff that you want to feel. So if it's okay, I want to do a couple downloads with you and clear out some old belief systems. So if you guys are okay with having the highest understanding and perspective and definition of love, and that's love for yourself, love for others, compassion. Let's give you the highest understanding and perspective of all of that. And if you have any associations with love being painful, with love meaning that you're going to be abandoned or hurt, or that it's has any abuse or anything associated with it. Let's just release all that trauma, shock, and pain so that you can really understand what it feels like to connect with love, to know that you're safe connecting with love and what it feels like. And if you're okay with also having the same understanding and perspective and definition of respect and honor, of freedom, communication, and expression, then let's give you those as well, so that you can have the best definition, the best understanding and feeling of those. And if there's anything that you're holding on to that doesn't align with those highest definitions, let's just ask that that's resolved as well, so that you know what it feels like to really know what it is to communicate with grace and to express yourself in the highest and best way and be authentic and be true as you do that. So again, a lot of times people will say on one level that they want those things, but then there's some fears there that are blocking that. So it's just kind of helping you guys to resolve some of the blocks that are there so you can really just have what you want. And if there's anything else that you feel is important that you want to have as well, then let me know and we'll do a download for that too. So when you think about any other barriers to figuring out what you do want or to feeling what feels good or understanding, is there anything else that comes up just before we move on? If there's anything else that feels like that's getting in the way of you being able to say yes, of you being able to choose, then let me know. And we'll play with that. Okay. Nope, I think everybody's okay at the moment. Oh, money. Oh, okay. Money. I love talking about money because money is never, ever about money. For those of you who are struggling with money, let's resolve any misunderstanding or fear that you have around money. And actually any beliefs that money is the only way for you to be happy or money is the only way for you to have freedom. And anything else that money's been doing for you, let's just resolve all of that and show you what it feels like to be able to choose the experience of receiving money and allowing it and doing that with lots of grace and love as well. Oh, that feels much better. I've got a couple people saying doubt. So, good question. So for me, doubt comes under the confusion bit to a degree. And what I would actually ask you is to ask yourself what it is that doubt is teaching you about yourself. So anything that you go through in your life that's negative, that's difficult, that's harsh, what I would say is there's always something positive that you're trying to learn from it. Your soul's always wanting to learn a positive lesson, a positive gift or a virtue. So it's worth tuning into yourself and asking how it serves you to doubt yourself. So again, a lot of times it's the opposite. So a lot of times when we're doubting ourselves, it's because we're really trying to learn how to trust ourselves, how to trust our intuition, how to recognize the truth, things like that. So there may be more specific things that apply to you, but any of you guys that are doubting, let's just resolve that now, whatever you're ready to let go of, and show you what it feels like to be able to trust yourself and trust your intuition and know what it is to connect with the truth with grace. Okay, Matt's talking about needing a stable, secure base and scared of it crumbling under your feet. So, I love that. Thank you. So for me, being a human being, I'll keep this short. We could talk about this all day. But for me, being a human being is always this creating a harmony between us being these expansive, eternal, incredible, infinite beings, having a finite, timed, physical existence. So we're beyond time, but we're within it, within this plane. And I find a lot of people have this struggle with that because we know that we're not human beings, and a lot of us really suck at being human beings because we know that we're more than that. We know that there's something beyond it. So we kind of struggle with this plane and with emotions and with interactions and with other people and all that good fun stuff that we're here to learn how to do. And so we go through this thing where, as physical beings, there is a part of us that wants that stability and that wants a foundation. And I would never say that that's wrong, because I think it's worth creating foundations in your life and creating foundations with your work and, there are places to build off of. But if you're so stuck in that foundation, if you're so stuck in that, oh, I've created this foundation and now I can't move beyond that, that's where I would say the problem is. And I know I've had that before where I'm like, oh, I've put all this work and effort into this project here or into this thing. And so do I really want to give that up because I've already invested so much? And so I actually stop myself from moving into something new and exciting and fun because I'm like, oh, I've already got foundations in this, so should I really be messing with that? But actually, and again, this comes back to a lot of people have belief systems around destruction and creation and feeling like they have to destroy everything in order to move on to something else. And that's not true either. Because again, if you can look at life as being a journey and an evolution, then you're never really losing anything. You're just finding new ways to build on it or new ways to create within that or new ways to alter it or change it. So if you can find ways to be comfortable within your freedom and know that you are safe and secure and can trust your freedom and that you're taken care of and that your soul knows what it's doing, then you can release that need to really have that security and that stability. Because stability, and this is the thing, people are like, I want safety, I want stability, I want security. Those are belief systems. Because they're different for everybody. Everybody will have their own opinion of what's safe, what's stable, what's secure. So it's just another belief system that you're buying into. So for me, it's about transcending that and knowing that you as this amazing being are safe and secure and that you can create the life that you want to create instead of having to rely on something from the past that doesn't even work for you anymore. So again, it's shifting out of that, I'm going to say no to these things because I don't know how to say yes to what's beyond that. So it's that, again, it's that saying yes to what's new and exciting. Again, it can still be very grounded. You can be very grounded and manifest. And actually, that's the best way to do it. Because if you can be very grounded in your manifesting, where you still have that connection between, soul and source, but bringing it into this plane and into this reality, that's the best way to do it. So if you want to change that, I have to be safe and secure and all of that too. I can just be very grounded within my manifesting. That might be just a different way to look at it. So hopefully those words and work for you. And cool. Deborah's saying that she's learned about self-acceptance. Which is a big thing as well, because again, those judgments, we talked about judgments yesterday. If you're getting caught up in judgments, that gets in the way, old regrets and resentments and things like that you've made about yourself or other people can stop you from, having something new in your life. So self-acceptance is a huge part of that. Definitely. Cool. Thank you guys for sharing. Awesome. Keep asking. We'll go through that. So you may already have ideas about what you want to have in your life, about how you want to feel in your life. And actually, what I want to say is for those of you who struggle to connect in with how you feel, who struggle to identify your feelings and what feels good, what feels right, what feels aligned, now, if it's okay with you, let's just do a healing for that and resolve and clear any barriers that you have to that you're ready to release and resolve. And give you the highest understanding and perspective of what it is to be able to tune into your emotions, to tune into how you feel, and find alignment and find, a path and a clarity for yourself by feeling your way into that and what it feels like to be able to trust that in your daily life. So if any of you guys want that download, want that healing, you can receive that. It's a big shift, actually. And that any of you who have been blocking off feeling because it felt overwhelming for you, you felt overwhelmed by your feelings, even if they were good ones, even if they were positive ones. Let's resolve that as well and show you how to tap into your feeling and understand your feeling without being overwhelmed by it. Much better. Cool. So I'll talk a little bit about more of that at the end. Right. So what I want to talk to you guys a little bit about now is it's what I call non-negotiable priorities. And this stuff changed my life. Like you have no idea what a massive difference it made when I started to learn how to do this and learn how to implement it. So basically, probably, again, this is last year, I was really struggling with loads of stuff in my life because I felt like I should be doing lots of stuff. I ought to be doing lots of stuff. So I was neglecting myself, actually, because of all the stuff I thought I should do. So what I sat down and did was that I really looked at, what do I need to have in my life that makes me feel good, that makes me feel amazing, that gives me a sense of well-being, that gives me a sense of peace, that gives me a sense of prosperity. You know, whatever the priorities are for you is what will work for you. So you'll need to get clear on this yourself. But I'll give you guys some examples of some things that I've done that really helped. So I started to identify, when during the day do I feel amazing? What activities do I do, either now or in the past, that I've absolutely loved, that have been the most fun for me, that have been the most, nourishing on any level, or nurturing on any level. And so I started small. I started identifying little things that make a difference. And for me, it's things like, meditating every day. And I don't do it for a huge long time. I do about 20 minutes, but in the morning. But I recognized that I needed to do that in order to feel good each day. I also know I need to exercise like 3 or 4 times a week, or I feel like crap. But what was happening is that in my head, I was saying, I should be working, I should be working, I should be working. And so I was neglecting my body. I wasn't meditating and I wasn't exercising because I thought I should be doing other things. So what I started to do was saying, okay, what are the things that I need to do either on a daily basis or a weekly basis or whatever it is? And how can I implement them in my life in a way that's meaningful, in a way that's actually going to work? So I know for myself, I chose a lot of things and I started doing them in the morning because it meant that I would get them done. It would happen. And I wouldn't start justifying I'll do this other thing instead or things like that. I wouldn't talk myself out of it or sabotage myself in any way. So I recognize that first thing in the morning, if I get up and I meditate and then I exercise, then it's done. And then I can spend the rest of my day either working with clients or working on work or seeing friends or, whatever it is that I'm supposed to be doing. So essentially what setting these non-negotiables does for you is it makes you a priority in your life again. And I know so many people, and we talked about burdens yesterday, so many people have put themselves on the back burner. They've put their bodies, their hearts, their minds, their souls, all those things that really feed them and really nourish them. They've put that on the back burner and they don't allow themselves to do it because they feel like everybody else has to come first. But by identifying what actually feeds you and nourishes you and making that the priority, it means that you get taken care of and you can still serve in whatever way you're meant to serve as well. So if you're a healer or, you've taken care of other people, you've got a caring capacity or, you're a boss or whatever that is where you're in service, you're a leader, you're in service. It means that you are taken care of and you're nourished and you're fed and you are feeling light and free. And then you can share so much more with other people. And so I know for myself that setting those things, I set a lot of physical things for my physical body, which has totally changed how my body feels. And again, a lot of them were very simple things. It's like drinking more water and, eating foods that are really healthy and nourishing but not doing things just kind of, shoving food in my mouth on the bus because I'm rushing off somewhere else. It's actually taking the time to honor myself and honor my body and all that it does for me. Yes, Deborah, self-love is definitely the key. So it's about having that as the priority. It's that making yourself that priority. So once I started to do that, I started to fine-tune that a bit more and find other things that were really important to me. So I know that, and again, this started out as a no, figuring out a no for myself, and then I turned it into a yes. So what was happening was I was making myself crazy with technology. I was making myself nuts because I have an iPhone. So what would happen is that every time I got an email, every time I got a Facebook message, every time a notification came through on my page, this little red circle would pop up. And it would pop up and pop up and pop up. So what was happening is that I was living my life with like my phone stuck to my face because every time I saw that little red light, I would go and check. And then I would feel like I had to respond because I checked. So I was spending all day long just responding to my phone all day long, all day long, all day long. And honestly, I was going nuts. I was driving myself totally crazy. And so what I did was I said, I can't do this anymore. What do I change that's going to fix that? And it was really simple. I went into my phone and changed the notifications on my phone so I don't receive those notifications. So that was the main thing, because it just kept that automatic response from happening. But then I really looked at how I wanted to interact with people through email, through Facebook, through social media. And I wanted it to be much more considered, and I wanted it to be a much more conscious and aware interaction with people. Because what was happening before is, it's that thing, you get an email or message, so you're like running for the bus and typing it out a text. And for me, that's not a meaningful response. There's not enough in that for me. So what I started to do was just say, right, I'm only going to check my emails a couple times a day. I'm only going to check these things a couple times a day. And I'm only going to check them where if I have a message, I have time to actually respond, because somebody else has taken the time to send me a considered email or a considered message. So I'm only going to respond when I can do the same for them. So for me, it was honoring and respecting other people. It was, how can I honor myself? How can I honor other people as well? So that was a big change that I made with the technology and with the communication in my life. And it's made my life so much calmer. It just took out so much stress and so much nonsense that I was going through. So again, these are little things, or it seems like a little thing, but they can have a massive impact. So for me, that non-negotiable is I only check my email when I have time. And I think, we're in an interesting world where everything is so immediate, like Facebook Live, it's so immediate. I turn it on and it pops up and we're in it. And so I think people get into that mindset of, I have to respond, I have to respond, I have to respond. They expect it immediately. But actually, it's not the case. And I think we give better service, and we represent ourselves better. We communicate and express ourselves in a better way when we actually do it in a more, in a more measured way, in a much more conscious way. So take that pressure off yourself to be responding to everyone else immediately. Set that boundary and say, no, I can respond and communicate in the way that I want to. So, so those are some of the ones that I've used. And what I want to say, I want to share this quote with you. Just because I found it really fascinating. So there's a guy named James Altucher who I read a lot of his stuff. He's really interesting. He's got a business background, has had loads of businesses, and he's kind of quirky and slightly crazy, but in the best ways. I really like it. But he sent out an email a couple months ago and was talking about social media and interaction and how we interact with other people through that, and this essentially this need to respond. And what he said in the email was, another person asked if I wanted to meet for a coffee. I didn't even respond. Nothing wrong with not responding. Social media is a suggestion, not an obligation. And it was really interesting because I had such a mixed response to that. And anytime I talk about this quote with people, it's really funny because some people kind of go, oh, I can't believe he said that. And some people are like, yes. So I find it really fascinating that, that he's just set this boundary. He says, social media is something that's important, but it's not a requirement in my life. And I don't feel like I have to connect with everybody in my social media circle because he's got millions and millions of followers. So how could he really? But I just found it fascinating, that quote of, it's a suggestion and not an obligation. So he's taken the obligation out of that interaction and has just said, no, I'm going to respond in the ways that I want to. So if you guys have anything you want to say about that or any questions, then please do. It usually brings up some interesting stuff for people. But yeah, I loved that quote. I thought that was so good. But yeah, and it was funny because I think there was part of me that kind of went, I would feel so guilty if somebody sent something to me and I didn't respond back. So it was interesting to see that there was some guilt coming up for me that I needed to look at. And kind of recognizing, again, you can set healthy boundaries or you can respond in the way that's right for you, but without feeling like you need guilt to make you respond or make you be polite, because that's essentially what it was doing. It was reminding me to be polite. It was reminding me to respect other people. So with non-negotiables, with figuring out your non-negotiable priorities, again, it's identifying the feeling. But then the next step is, the feeling that you want to have. What do you want to have in your life? So if you don't want the crazy responding nonsense that I was going through, what I actually wanted was some peace and some calm. I wanted to have expression that was authentic. I wanted conversations that were authentic and clear. So that was the yeses. So I identified what I did want to have. And then I figured out how to match actions to that would help create that. So again, that was turning off the notifications. That was only choosing to check my email a certain number of times a day, and being comfortable with that response. So it's finding the actions that will match the feelings that you want to have. So I would encourage you guys to really look at the things that make you feel free, that make you feel great. Something that, Emma's on here. Emma's an avid reader and writer, and I learned from her the importance of reading every day and doing some writing every day, and how I feel incredible when I do that. And so for me, it was about giving myself permission to do that, because again, I was feeling guilty for sitting and reading a book just because I wanted to. But now I do that every day, and it feels amazing. So for me, it was finding that choice of, I know I need to read every day to feel good. I learn from reading. I grow from reading. It enhances my life in innumerable ways, And the same with writing, whether it's just me journaling how I'm feeling, or whether it's me writing something for this page or whatever else I'm working on. That writing is so important. And what I love about actually making the non-negotiable priorities is that what it helps you to do is it helps you to really make it real. You put it in your diary, you schedule it in your diary, and then you don't have to justify yourself. And that's the big thing. I know that stops a lot of people from doing these things. There's this feeling of, I have to justify myself. If I make this choice, if I do this here, I have to explain myself to other people. And that stops a lot of people from choosing the things that they want to have. But actually, if you just get into that mindset of, I'm a priority in my life, I want to be present and happy and content within my life, and I'm going to do what I want to do to have that happen, then it just takes that justification out of it. So actually, those of you who are afraid of having to justify your happiness, if you're afraid of having to justify your joy or being content or being aligned with who you really are, let's resolve that now. And show you what it feels like to be able to choose yourself, to be able to choose you, to choose all the goodness in life, and be happy and comfortable with that. You would be happy for anybody else, but people won't be happy with themselves. If anybody else was doing it, you cheer them on and tell them that's perfect and amazing and great. But then often when it comes to doing that for ourselves, we're like, oh, no, I can't do that. That's not okay. So give yourself permission. Really give yourself permission to do that. Yeah, so for me, the non-negotiables are, it's giving themselves space and time in your life, giving those priorities space and time in your life. So write them in. Block off time. So if it's a priority for you to go dancing, then find a dance class or schedule something with a friend, or find a place that once a week does it. Schedule it in, write it in. If it's important for you to do artwork, then make it happen, because nobody else is going to do it unless you do it. So you have to make it a priority. You've got to put it in your diary. You've got to do it. Because otherwise it won't. And I don't know, I find it fascinating that ourselves are the last thing we put in our diaries. We schedule everything else in before we schedule our fun and our happiness. And this is why people really struggle with their lives. So with the non-negotiables, it doesn't mean that you never, ever revisit them or you never change them. It's still worth revisiting them every couple of months, because you may want to do a dance class for a couple months, but then you may decide you want to do yoga for a while, or you want to take a painting class or whatever. But again, as long as you are making yourself a priority and whatever feeds your soul. I mean, for some people, doing courses or classes or reading, they're learners. There's some people that it's part of them to learn all the time, but they stop themselves. They don't allow themselves, because they're like, oh, I shouldn't do another course, or I shouldn't, spend more money on books, or, whatever that, or I should be cleaning my house instead. That's usually what it is. Stuff is the boring nonsense stuff like that. So yeah, so you may, you can alter that stuff, you can revisit that stuff, but if you're a learner, if that's a priority, then allow yourself to learn. If you're a social being and it's important for you to be out with your friends or out dancing or connecting with people in whatever way is right for you, there's meetup groups, there's so many options out there, then allow yourself to do that. If your physical body, if you're one of these people that feels really good being really active, then find ways to do that. Join a class, join the gym. If you hate the gym, don't join the gym. But find something where you're using your body that feels good. Yeah, so whether it's cycling, whether it's running, whether it's dancing, stretching, there's biodanza, there's all these amazing things you can do. So find what actually is going to work for you and what feels good for you. But I think what I love about this as well is that when you start to make yourself a priority and without feeling guilty about it and without justifying yourself, it gives other people permission to do that. So other people will start to figure out what they want to do, that people are inspired by the cool stuff that you do. So if you actually allow yourself to live that authentic life, then other people see how to do it and learn from that too. So again, it's that choosing yourself, choosing a boundary is really compassionate. It's really compelling for other people. And it changes other people's lives as well. Because actually, it's that thing of, if you make yourself a priority and you enjoy your life, then the people in your life are going to feel that. Your friends and your family are going to know that you're happier, and that's, they want you to be happy. They all want you to be happy. So allowing yourself to choose that happiness enhances your relationships, and it enhances their lives as well. So these non-negotiable priorities are just about creating room for yourself in your own life. Make yourself the priority again, and allow yourself to live that. But yeah, I think for myself, when I really started to do this, when I really started to engage these, and that's the thing, there's a difference between establishing a boundary and implementing a boundary. So you do need to establish them to begin with, but then it's continuing to choose that throughout the days, throughout time, throughout your life. And so it's about making it a real part of your daily life, not just some theoretical thing that you think about and that you think that you know. It's, how do I set this in my life that's a meaningful way? So I know that when I really started to do this, when I really started to schedule this in, when I really started blocking off time for myself and enjoying it, I really stopped that inner conflict with myself about how I should be spending my time, about what I ought to be doing or how I ought to be spending my time. It just got rid of that conflict and drama within my own head. And I felt so much more fulfilled and relaxed and calm and centered and everything else, because it brought my life back into balance and back into harmony. Because if you're leaving yourself out of your life, there's no harmony there. It's going to cause conflict and drama within your life, within your body, within your relationships. So by bringing yourself back to that center and making yourself a priority, it just balances all that stuff out. So I stopped that inner conflict and drama within myself. I stopped neglecting my body. I stopped neglecting, my brain and my sense of fun and adventure and all those things that were a priority. And it just gave me real clarity about what it is to choose my own life, to choose what feels good, to choose what's amazing and what's right for me. And again, without getting caught up in that conflict or justification with other people. And I know that for those of you who serve and who are carers and things, it is that thing of, when you're happy and healthy, you're of more service to the world than if you're not. So taking care of yourself, again, is an act of compassion. It's an act of love for yourself and for the world around you. And yes, allowing is definitely the key, Deborah. Allowing... That's one of the big things, is that people in their lives, what they're manifesting, they're saying, I want this, I want this, I want this, but they don't actually allow what they want. So they're like demanding from the universe love and affection and attention and money and all these things. But then when you start to go into it, they're like, oh, but I don't actually know how to allow any of that stuff to happen. So on some level, they're calling it in. On another level, they're pushing it away. So for those of you who are struggling to allow the good stuff in your life, let's just resolve that, do a healing for that now, and show you what it feels like to know how to allow, to choose what you allow, to know that you've got power and control within that scope and within that reality of your life. So just allow that to shift and clear. That feels better. Cool. So, do you guys have any questions? We're coming up about 50 minutes, I think we've done. Does anybody have any questions so far? Anything they want to share? Any non-negotiables they've put into their lives that have worked? Or any barriers to being able to choose themselves, make themselves a priority? You know, what's getting in the way? We can talk through that and clear some of that too. Or if you've got any amazing success stories about any of this, then that would be awesome too. Please feel free to share. We can have a chat through that. Cool. So I think some of you guys are maybe adding some things. So I'll share a few things while you're typing away. Children. What about children, Deborah? Add some more to that. So I'll come back to that. I'll talk to you guys a little bit about what we're going to do in the next one. So I'm going to do another session on Wednesday at 4 o'clock UK time. And that's going to be kind of the third one in this series on boundaries. And with that one, what we're going to be looking at is kind of essentially now that you've moved through your no's and your yeses, it's about really finding that true alignment. So a little bit of what Emma was picking up on earlier in the conversation is just finding that real alignment and aligning with that sense of purpose, that sense of divine timing, synchronicity, and what it is to step into, you know, living the life that you as a soul wants to be here to really learn. So it's kind of showing how boundaries in your little physical world, your physical body actually can impact you on a soul level and make your purpose much easier. Or make it more graceful for you, I will say. People don't like easy because they feel bored by that, but it'll make it a little more graceful and more fun for you instead of fighting against it or things getting in the way. So it's just about clearing the road so that you can move forward with that. Cool. So what I will say as well, so that's going to happen on Wednesday at 4 o'clock UK time. And we'll do another kind of 45 minutes, an hour or so. If there's lots of questions, we'll answer those too. Okay, obligation and duty with children. Okay. So I understand if you're a mother, and especially with children who, you know, depending on their levels of growth and age and things like that, you know, obviously there's going to be some duties and obligations or responsibility, I will say responsibility within taking care of your children. You know, you want to be a good parent. But I think there's also something to say for being a loving, caring parents and a loving, caring being for them. But it's so important for you to show them what it is for you to have your own life and your own independence too. And I think a lot of parents get caught up in this thing of being the perfect parents and, you know, the whole world revolving around the child and things like that. But I think that actually shows them how not to, you know, how to put themselves second themselves. And actually, the happier you are, your children pick up on that on some level. So if you're happy, it's going to make them happy because nobody's family really wants them to be unhappy or, you know, be miserable. So by allowing yourself to be happy, you teach them how to do that too. And that's powerful. That's really empowering for them to have. It's a really empowering thing to be able to do. So again, it's looking at, you know, if there are obligations of duty, it's looking at, you know, is there guilt getting in the way of that? Is there fear or shame getting in the way of that? And dealing with those emotions so that you're not getting caught up in that and feeling like you have to, you know, live a certain way or be a certain way. Yeah, it's good for parents. It's good for kids to see their parents happy and having fun and doing things that they want to do and that they have lives as well. It's a good thing. Cool. So I'll share with you a couple of other things that are coming up. If there's any last questions, I'll see if I can squeeze them in too. So we got one more of these on Wednesday. I'm running an in-person day workshop in Edinburgh on the 3rd of September. So that's just a little over a month. And it's called Fierce Freedom. And it's essentially a lot of it is looking at boundary stuff. So we'll go more in depth with that. And then there's some other things I'm going to incorporate with it. But a lot of this boundary stuff is kind of the foundation of that workshop. So if there are any of you who are in Edinburgh or want to come to Edinburgh for the day and join us with that, that's going to be an awesome day. I'm really excited about this workshop. I can already feel the energy building for it. It's going to be powerful. So there will be some healing involved with that, but also a lot of practical things that you can do in figuring out your yeses, figuring out your nos, and yeah, in all of those details, and how to really implement them in your life, not just apply them or start them, establish them, but really implement them and make them real. So that's going to be the 3rd of September. And I've got a few other things coming up. Later this year, I'm going to be involved in a summit where I'm going to be doing some talks on this and have an online course coming out and a book as well. So so for those of you who are wanting more, there's more coming out throughout the year. But if you have any questions about anything else I'm offering, it's on my website. It's probably here on the Facebook page. You can sign up for my newsletter. There's a tab somewhere saying something about subscribe to Inspiration. That will sign you up so that you're kept up to date with all of those things. But if you have any questions about any other events or anything that I'm offering, please feel free to get in touch. I'm happy to share any of that with you. So I don't see any last questions. So if you think of anything else, we'll be back on Wednesday afternoon. Feel free to ask them then, or you can send them to me through a message if you'd rather have a private response. Yes, but thank you so very much, all of you who have joined. Yes, please be in touch, and I'll speak to you soon. Thanks very much.